3 years ago, I started my first AI company. I scaled that business to over $1 million in revenue and 10 employees. Now I'm building a new business, but this time around, I'm not hiring any employees because all of my employees are AI agents. I've been building and using AI agents for around 2 years now, and it feels like I'm moving at the speed of 10 people, even though I'm currently a one-man operation. In the past 2 months, I've already built out a website that an agency probably would have charged me thousands of dollars to create. I've deployed software that previously would have taken me years to build. I've generated hundreds of signups, and I've even landed a $1 billion startup as one of my first customers. And the best part is that nearly all of this work has been done by my small army of AI agents. In this video, I am going to be teaching you everything I know about how to build and, more importantly, how to make money with AI agents. As you can see by the length of this video, I'm not going to be holding anything back, so I'll be splitting things into chapters to make it a little bit easier to consume. First, we'll give you a foundational understanding of what AI agents actually are, how they work under the hood, and give you a breakdown of the key concepts that you need to understand to be able to effectively build and deploy AI agents yourself. Then we'll dive into 7 tutorials where I will break down exactly what tools I'm using to build these agents and give you a step-by-step breakdown of how to build them for yourself and for your specific use case. I've timestamped each of these chapters in the description below, so feel free to skip ahead to whichever of these sections is most relevant to you right now. First, we'll be diving into how to build an AI co-founder or generalized AI assistant. Then we'll be talking about how to use AI agents for design and make your website look like it was built by a startup with $1 million in funding. Then we'll move into a section on software development. I'll teach you the basics of vibe coding and then show you what it takes to advance from vibe coding to what I like to call agentic engineering. After that, we'll jump into a few chapters where I'll show you how to automate the core aspects of lead generation, sales, and fulfillment. Then I'll give you a full breakdown on the AI agent that managed my customer support end-to-end and show you exactly how you can replicate it. And finally, as a cherry on top, I'm going to show you the exact system I'm using to find customers that are paying me thousands of dollars a month completely on autopilot. Before you can start building AI agents, it's obviously important that you understand what agents actually are. And there's a really important distinction that I want to make that I think will help you understand what the real power of agents is. And that's chat versus agent, right? So AI chat is the traditional model that we were first introduced to in 2022 when ChatGPT first came out. And this is really simple. You ask AI a question, the AI is going to reply, and then you end up doing the actual work. And I want to use a quick example here. So let's say that we are replying to an email from a client, right? You would probably copy that email thread, paste it in the AI chat, and ask the agent, I want you to write me a reply to this email from my client. Then the AI is going to look at that chat that you pasted in, and it's going to generate a reply for you, and you ultimately do the work, which is copying that email response and then pasting it into your Google Gmail and then sending that off to the client. Now, the difference with the AI agent is that the model looks a little bit different. So you set the agent a goal. In this case, that goal would be, I need you to reply to all of my emails from clients. And maybe this wouldn't be a great goal, but we're just using an example here. Then the agent is going to get triggered by something. In that case, that is an inbound email from a client. And then the agent is going to actually do the work for you, right? So what would that look like here? So you obviously have set your goal. That agent is going to receive the email from your client directly. It already has the context of the full thread. It might do some research about who that client is, what your previous relationship is with them, what type of projects they're working on, and then it's going to write that email. And not only is it going to write that email, it's actually going to do the work by sending that reply for you. Obviously, that's a lot more powerful, and I think it's important that we understand exactly how this is working on the back end. So how do agents actually work? At the core, we have a large language model. This is exactly the same to AI chat. The large language model acts as kind of the brain for the agent. So this is going to be a bunch of different models. It's not super important here, but this is something like ChatGPT, Claude's models, Gemini, whatever model you have, this works kind of the same across all of your agents. Then we get into a more important section, which is the toolkit. And the toolkit is what allows the agent to actually interact with other data and make actions on your behalf. So we have a bunch of different tools that are available. This is only a short list. Basically, any app that you are already using on the internet can be added as a tool to your AI agents. So we have things like the agent can use your computer, it can run and write code, it can call external APIs, connections to your CRM, whatever that might be. It can search web, and it can use all of your apps, right? So that obviously right there, that alone makes agents a lot more powerful. Then we have the context. This is also kind of similar to how the traditional chat model works. But what the context is all the information that the agent has available to it by default without requesting that information from some external tool. So this might be the conversation history. This is memory and specific instruction that you might have provided. The memory is a really important aspect here. And this is what allows agents to kind of act more like an employee and learn from previous interactions, right? So it can learn from how you've written your previous replies, how you've talked to it before, and they can get smarter over time. Then, as I mentioned before, we have the triggers. And this is really the aspect of agents that allow them to become from something that you talk to something that's actually working for you. So there's a bunch of different things that can trigger an agent. A good way to think about this is that anything that's happening online in a different application can be used to trigger your agent to do some work for you related to whatever that thing that happened was. So that could be, a update in your CRM, a new payment in your Stripe account. You received an email, just like we were mentioning before. We can also run agents on a schedule. This means that, maybe every morning at 8 a.m., you want your agent to do some work for you. You can set that up really easily and just tell your agent to do that every day, 8 a.m., and it's going to work, every single day. Agents don't call out sick, which is one of the beautiful things about them. And then obviously, you can also trigger the agent to do some work by sending it a message directly. One of the questions I get asked all the time is, okay, so where do I actually get started when it comes to building AI agents? And I think what this question is really asking is what app do I need to download? So we're going to talk about that now really quickly. One thing I think you need to understand when you're deciding which app to start with is the difference between task specialized agents and generalized agents. So on the left here, we have a few different task specialized agents. We have Claude Code, Codex, Cursor. All three of these are task specialized for being really good at writing and editing code. Then we have My App Agent, which is really good at building go-to-market workflows and automating your company's operations. Then we have Microsoft Copilot. To be honest, I've never used this, but I would assume it's really good at doing things like modifying Excel sheets, building Word documents, that sort of stuff. And then we have Claude Design, which is obviously designed for doing AI design, right? Then we have our generalized agents. A few examples here. There are a bunch more on the market, but we have OpenClaw, we have Hermes, and we have Claude Cowork. All three of these are designed in a way that they can essentially do anything. And you might be asking yourself, so if I can download an app that's an agent that can do anything, why would I even bother with these task specialized agents? And so let me give you a quick example here. So yeah, you can ask Claude Cowork to write you some code, but since it's designed in a way that it can do anything, it's less good at actually writing code. You can think about this like an employee, right? So I'm sure there are people at your company who can write code, but maybe their specialty isn't writing code. So if you need code written, you want to go to someone on your team who's the lead developer. And that is what, Claude Code is, what these other code specific agents are for. So I recommend definitely starting with one of these generalized agents. I think if you're just getting started, Claude Cowork is the best one to go with. So go ahead and download that one. OpenClaw and Hermes, I think, are actually, at the end of the day, a bit more powerful, but they require a bit more knowledge of how agents work, maybe a bit of understanding of software and software development and how computers work to use efficiently and safely. So I would get started with Claude Cowork and then maybe advance into one of these other agents later on, if that makes sense for you. Okay, I want to share a quick mental model with you that will help you decide what agents you should build within either your business or your role at a company. And this is probably the most important thing in this entire video. So if you take away anything in this video, this should be it. You need to stop thinking in terms of roles and start thinking in terms of workflows. What do I mean by that? So the traditional model of business in general is that you have a person, that person has a role within a company, and then underneath that role, you have a bunch of different workflows and tasks that that person is doing on a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis. One thing that I see all the time in the AI agent space is people trying to port that way of thinking directly onto AI agents. So they're thinking, okay, this person is doing this role. I can either, instead of hiring a person in that role, just build an AI agent that does everything that role would do, or I can replace this person with one AI agent. And that is the completely wrong way to think about it. How you should be thinking about it instead is thinking about what the workflows that person is doing. I think the best way to demonstrate this is with an example. So let's take a look at the sales role, right? Obviously, the way this works is going to be different across organizations, but I've tried to create a list that is kind of generalized, right? So the first thing that you want to do is write down for that role what are all the tasks and workflows that the person currently in that role, the person that would be in that role, would have to be doing on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis, right? And this applies if you are a founder thinking about, building AI agents for yourself, if you're an operator thinking about what AI agents your employees should be running, or if you're an employee at a company trying to automate more of your work, right? So the first step is creating a list of, for that specific role, what are all the specific tasks. So I've already done that here. I made a kind of generalized list for the sales generalized role, right? Then the next thing you do is, for each of those tasks and workflows, you want to ask yourself one question about each of these, right? Is this boring, repetitive, and simple, right? And if the answer to that question is yes, you can probably automate that with agents. And the answer is no, we should probably keep that as a human task, right? So let's go through each of these one by one, and we'll figure out which ones that could be automated with AI agents, right? So researching target accounts to help build prospect lists. That definitely is something that is boring and repetitive, so that can be done by agents, right? The next one here is building outreach campaign strategy. To me, that's something that a human needs to be doing. That's neither boring or repetitive, right? That's something that's highly variable, so we'll keep that human. Find and verify contact information. AI agent can do that. Enriching leads. That's something an AI agent can do. That's boring, repetitive. You're doing the same task over and over again. Running cold email sequence and follow-ups. That is boring and repetitive. Cold calling / warm calling. Now this one is where we get into a bit of a gray area. This is boring and repetitive, but is not simple. I don't think an AI agent is going to be able to close cold calls at the same rate as your top performing salesperson. So let's skip that one. That's going to stay human. Respond quickly to inbound leads. This one can go either way. A lot of times the AI agent can do this. Run discovery calls and demos. No way. That is not boring, repetitive, or simple. So we're going to skip that one. Send proposals and negotiate. So this is one where obviously an AI agent is not going to be able to negotiate for you unless it's something that's very simple. Maybe if you're doing some sort of creator outreach and you're negotiating creator deals, AI agent might be able to handle that. But this is something that's core to your business a lot of times, especially if it's a salesperson, that is going to stay human. In this case, for sending proposals, you might be able to have that person have an agent that helps them with that system. Maybe you are collecting, the transcript from the previous call with that lead, sending that into an agent, and that agent is pre-drafting the proposals. But the ultimate negotiation and proposal management should be done by a human. Now, logging activity notes and lead status in the CRM, that is definitely boring, simple, and repetitive. So that is going to be an agent task. Tracking and reporting on personal metrics, that one, same thing, agent task. Right. So now the next thing that you want to do, once you've identified which of these tasks could be done by an agent, you want to think about, are these part of the same workflow, right? So I think our best example here is these three up here. So this is one of the workflows I actually build all the time with AI agents. So we want to build lists. We want to verify contact information. We want to enrich those leads. And then we want to run cold email campaigns with these leads. So this right here would either be one agent or one agent workflow that is responsible for this entire workflow, right? And that gets taken off the hands of your salesperson, right? So let's go ahead and organize these out here. Right. And one thing you're going to notice here is that these things that can't be automated are oftentimes the place where that person in the business is actually creating the most value. So it's really, at the end of the day, the things that can't be automated is where you actually want that person spending the most time. So what building agents that do the repetitive stuff allows you to do is have your best people spending their time on the things that are actually creating value for your business. Now let's talk about building your personal assistant or co-founder agent. Obviously, depending on what your role is, the exact role of this agent is going to vary slightly, but the general concepts for setting it up are exactly the same, no matter what you actually want that agent to be doing for you on a day-to-day basis. Now this, I think, is the most valuable thing that you can do if you're a beginner to agents, you don't have any experience building agents or working with agents before. I suggest that you follow along with me as I build this out. And by the end of this section, you're going to have an AI assistant that is incredibly powerful. So we're going to go through each of these sections one by one, the tools, triggers, context, and skills. The most important aspect here is the context, so we're going to be doing that first. Quick reminder, the context is all the information that the agent has at his disposal, right? So to get started, you're gonna need to download two things. A lot of you might already have the Claude app. If you don't, go ahead and download that for your system. The second one is Obsidian. Obsidian is a note-taking app that stores all the notes to your system in a way that the agent can access and modify really easily. This is super important. I definitely recommend installing this as part of this. Then once you have both of those things installed, you're gonna go into the Claude app, you're gonna go into the co-work section, head to the projects tab, and then create a new project, right? I'm gonna go ahead and start from scratch. This is gonna create a new folder where all the information for my personal assistant or co-founder lives. I already have this set up here, is this project, but I'll be showing you how to set it up from scratch. So start from scratch, we'll call this co-founder. We'll leave all this stuff blank for now. We don't need anything at the moment, and go ahead and click create. Now, what we wanna do is go ahead and connect in the Obsidian note-taking app, and then what we're gonna do is add as much context as we can to that app. So I'm just gonna tell the agent, connect to my Obsidian vault. Go ahead and set that message. And if you already have Obsidian installed and configured, it should be able to find this vault. If it can't find it, you might need to just finish the setup in Obsidian. But since I already have Obsidian set up, it is gonna go ahead and identify where that is and pull it up for me. Right, so the system didn't already have access to that folder. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and give it access to my Obsidian vault. Go ahead and click allow. And then the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to fill that Obsidian vault full of structured context with all the information about you as you can. So as you can see, it's already pulled up a lot of my folders that I have in that vault. Fortunately, I was already using Obsidian for a long time before agents were even really a thing. So I had a bunch of data in there already. If you haven't done that, you need to pre-fill that vault with all the contents that you can. So let me give you an example of some of the things that are in my vault and how I have it set up super quickly. Obviously, I've been using this a long time. This is a pretty cool view. You can see all of the different notes that I've taken. The way this is set up is you just have a bunch of folders, and inside of each of those folders are a bunch of notes. So I have this ventures folders with information about all my different businesses that I'm actively working on or I've worked on in the past. Then I have this folder about agents specifically, which has notes about every single thing that I've done since I had the first idea for this company. So for example, if I head down to this document here, this was the initial vision for Agent. And what I was doing is I was talking to the AI chat saying, hey, I have this idea for a product. Help me kind of plan out the general idea, what the product should be, how we're gonna market it, all that good stuff. Then as I've continued to work on the project, I'm working with the same AI agent. I'm having it save every single document back into a folder within my Obsidian. Another thing I'm doing is I have this folder called the Jungle. This is essentially a brain dump of all the interesting things I stumble across on the internet. I will simply just, every time I find something interesting, I tell the AI chat, hey, I just found this link, do some research on it, save it to the Jungle. That way, when I have a thought of like, oh, what was that tool that does this thing? I just ask the agent and it's able to pull that information back for me. So the power of the Obsidian is to give the agent context on every single thing that you're doing in your life, whether that's related to your business, your job, your personal life. And then the agent is able to access all that information later without you having to copy and paste stuff in every single time, right? So what we want to do, if you don't already have a Obsidian setup, which I'm guessing most of you don't, we want to have the agent fill all of this information out for you for it to access later. There's a few different ways you can do that. It's going to highly depend on where you have information about yourself stored, whether it's in a notes app somewhere, whether it's in, you've recorded a bunch of videos on YouTube, whether you have a GitHub repos, wherever that information is, we want to go ahead and connect that source to to Claude, and then have Claude pull that information, organize it, and then save it into your Obsidian folder. Let's give you one quick example, which is just connecting your email account and then having it pull in all of the information from your email and saving it to Obsidian. So what I would do is the first thing to do is head to this Customize tab, head to Connectors, and then add a connector, browse, and then you're gonna search Gmail. Obviously, I already have that connected. I actually haven't synced my Gmail into my Obsidian, so we'll use that as a good example. Once you have Gmail connected, you go ahead and head back into this chat where you've already told it to connect Obsidian. And I'm just gonna tell it, I want to organize and save all of the information from my email into Obsidian, right? And essentially you're going to repeat this exact process for every single place that there's information about you. So you could do from your, if you post on LinkedIn, you do from your LinkedIn account, from your X account, wherever that information might live, that's going to provide the agent with helpful context about who you are, what you're working on, what your job is. Maybe it's all in Google Docs. You know, connect to your Google Docs account and have it pull in all of that information, right? So go ahead and send this message. This is obviously, if you're starting from zero, it's going to take a little while, but you're going to go through this one by one for each of those data sources and have it, one, organize, and then two, save the information. It's really important that it organizes it in a way that it's going to be able to access easily later. And you can just do this by telling it, you know, organize as much, you know, just telling it, make sure you keep it organized, right? So it's asked me I'll go last 30 days because I don't want actually everything. I say business, contracts, finances. Yeah, give it, why not everything? Cool. We'll go topic summary notes. And then that agent is off and working, and it's going to go ahead and do that task for you and let you know when it's done. Obviously, like I said, this is going to take a while for each of those sections. While it's working on that, what we're going to do is head back into my Obsidian where I have this note. And let's talk about tools next. So what I just connected with Gmail is a tool. Tools in Claude are these connectors, right? So we go here, we go to customize, connectors, and then tools. What you want to do is you want to connect every single app that you're using on a day-to-day basis already, whether that's your CRM, your, for example, like your Linear, your Supabase account, wherever you're working day-to-day, you want to connect in all of this data so that the agent is able to access it and do things for you within those other applications. Let me give you a quick example of that and show you how I'm using this to optimize my workflow. So we'll head back to here. I already have like I said, I already have a project set up. That's my personal co-founder for Agent. So what we're going to do is I have a skill set up. We'll talk about skills shortly. But what skills are like repetitive workflows essentially. And you give the agent a specific set of instructions and it's going to run that workflow for you when you tell it to do something. So I have a skill set up that is the daily plan. So I'm going to run the daily plan skill. Say run the daily plan skill. And what this skill does is it helps me plan out my tasks for each day. So this is connected to my Obsidian for one, my Linear, which is just a task management software that I use for keeping track of all the tasks that I need to do, and then also a few other data sources. So as it's working here, eventually it's going to ask me a few questions that I've asked it to ask me every day. So it asks me what the priority for the day is, what the monthly goal is, and what my current MRR is, because I'm tracking that every day. So I'm going to go ahead and say my number one priority is record and edit YouTube video. Monthly goal, I already set this before, so say same as yesterday. And then I'm not going to tell you guys my MRR, so I'm just going to put 1,000 and I'm going to edit this later. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to look back at all of my previous notes that it's saved, and it's going to look at all of my action items in Linear, and it's going to make a plan for me for today with the prioritized items that are most important. Okay, so that took a little while to run, but it's already created this daily plan. I actually had to have it modify it to remove my MRR, so I didn't leak that. But let's go ahead and check out that document that's created. So it's adding it to my daily plans folder for today. And it's kind of breaking down my priorities and then linked back to each of the Linear tasks that I'm saving that it's referencing and telling me, these are the things that you should be prioritizing today to get towards those goals that you have already told me. So it just helps you plan your day and prioritize everything for you automatically. One thing to mention regarding the connectors, the way that I add new stuff to Linear is I'm actually never touching Linear manually. Whenever I have a new task that I need to add to my to-do list, I just tell it add X, I describe the task, right? Send that, and then it saves it to Linear in the correct place with all the information pre-filled so it can access that later. Obviously not going to save this random task, but it can do that for you. Let's head back to the other tab that we were just working in to show you how to finish this setup. What it's done here is it's created a bunch of new folders and files for each of the information that we told it to grab, and it's added that to Obsidian, and then now it'll later be able to access all this information about you and pull that into context, which is super helpful. Especially when you're asking to do something, for example, like, I'm working on a business plan, yada, yada, yada. If it's aware of all the assets that you already have. So for example, let's say that you have a YouTube channel with 1,000 subscribers. It knows that, it knows what your videos are about, and it can recommend that you make, certain videos to promote your new product. Obviously this is very variable depending on, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So the config is going to vary, but I would definitely recommend going through all your data sources, having it add all of those to Obsidian, and then it will be able to pull that data and reference it later to help you out in various ways. The other thing that we want to talk about is skills. So let me head back to my drawing here. Right, so you just saw me use the daily plan skill. I set these up all the time for various different things. Essentially what you want to use skills for are repetitive tasks where you have a specific set of instructions that you want it to be able to run on command, right? So a good example of this might be a LinkedIn post writer skill. So let's say that you need to generate 5 posts for LinkedIn per week. You want it to do a certain set of actions to help you generate those posts. Maybe that's check all of your previous posts, all your previous writing that you've saved already in your Obsidian. Maybe it's pull in a few new posts from LinkedIn to check as reference and then write those posts in a specific way. What you would do is you would set up a skill to have it repeat that process. So let's use an example here. So I just enabled Whisperflow. This is a separate app that you should check out. It just lets you talk to your AI instead of typing everything in manually, which saves you a lot of time. I'll leave a link to that in the description. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask it to build that LinkedIn skill that I just described. I want you to build a new skill that helps me write LinkedIn posts. It should generate 5 new posts. You should check my Obsidian for writing references so you can write posts in my writing style. I also want you to pull in 5 relevant LinkedIn posts from my niche for Agent that you can use as inspiration to help you write posts that are likely to go viral. All right, so I'll send that in, and what that is going to do is it's going to help you configure a new skill that can be used on a repetitive basis, and that'll be saved in your workspace. So every time you want to write a new LinkedIn post, you just type a message, hey, I want to write 5 new LinkedIn posts, and then it'll access that skill, all the instructions that you've already provided it, and it's going to write good LinkedIn posts every time. And you can kind of dial in that skill, modify it over time, so you can improve the quality of whatever that skill might be, whether that's some workflow task that you're doing, whether it's writing posts, whatever it might be. Skills are super helpful for helping you automate repetitive work. Also, one thing you can do is just search online, just search for Claude skills for XYZ. You're going to come up with a bunch of examples that you can just import automatically that people have already built into your workspace. We're not going to go through this full process here in the interest of time, but what you would do is just work with it. It's going to help you create this skill for you. Now, the last thing we want to discuss here are triggers. Like I mentioned before, triggers are any external thing that's telling your agent to do some work without you manually sending it a message, right? So with the LinkedIn example, the current way I described it is that we would go into the chat and we would tell it, hey, write us 5 new LinkedIn posts. There's another way we can make this even more simple. A lot of my automated workflows I don't actually do with Claude because there are other platforms that make doing the automated workflows easier, like my software agent, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let me show you one simple example for Claude triggers. So one of the triggers that Claude has built in for you automatically is the scheduled trigger. What this allows you to do is every day or every week or every month at a certain time, it's going to use your computer to run that skill or task that you have pre-specified. So what we would do to set this up is we would go in the chat again. We're going to skip actually building out this and just skip this. So let's say that I'd already fully set up this LinkedIn skill. What I would do, I'll just send it a new message. I want to use a schedule to run the LinkedIn post writer once a week on Monday. Right, and you would send that in, and what that's going to do, same thing as before, it's going to automatically configure that for you and it's going to set it up so every Monday at the same time you're going to get 5 new LinkedIn posts. Now you can take this even further by connecting in another tool like Buffer or Postiz, some sort of like LinkedIn scheduler. You can actually ask it to not only write those posts but schedule them onto your feed for that week, so you can fully automate your LinkedIn posting process. So that's just one example there of how you could use Claude to set up those fully automated workflows. Okay, now I want to show you exactly how you can build a website that looks like it was built by a designer from a startup with millions of dollars in fundings, completely by yourself, even if you have no idea how to build websites or how to code at all. So this is my website for Agent. I built this in about 30 minutes completely with AI. Didn't write any of the code for it by myself. You might not like it. I personally think it looks pretty good. You know, it has cool animations. The design is good. I don't know, personal preference there. I'm going to show you how you can build any website that you want in an hour or less. Right. So the first thing that you want to do is you're going to need some copy for that website. Right. So if you followed our steps from the previous section, you'll already have a personal assistant, and that personal assistant will already have a really good idea, hopefully, of what your business is, what it does, what the pricing is, all that good stuff. And obviously, if you already have an existing website and you're just looking to update it, you can follow these instructions. So just skip this first part. But what you'll want to do is just ask that agent, I need you to write copy for my landing page. Use the copy on this website as an example, and then plug in the link to that website, and then the agent is going to generate you some copy. Obviously, you're going to want to modify that a little bit. It's probably not going to be perfect the first time, but go back and forth and generate some copy for your website, and then make sure it's available inside your Obsidian. So in my Obsidian, I believe I have landing page copy. I'm not going to scroll through and look for it because the agent will already be able to find it. But I'm going to head over from Cowork into Claude Code. I'm going to make sure the latest model is selected. So that's their Fable 5 model at the moment of recording this video. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find some websites that I want to use as inspiration. And this is one of the most important steps, so spend a lot of time on this part here. There's 2 websites that I recommend that you check out for inspiration if you don't already have an idea in mind of some beautiful websites that you want to use. This website, mobbin.com, is great. There's a bunch of beautifully designed websites and apps on here that you can use as inspiration. Another one is awards.com. Same thing, just a bunch of websites. So what you're going to want to do is find 2 or 3 of these websites with a fairly similar design direction that you want to recreate your own version of for your personal website or the website for your business. You can honestly just fully copy someone else's website. Obviously don't recommend doing that, but it is very possible with these apps, and I'll show you how that works. But what I recommend doing is finding a few examples and then having the agent kind of combine those ideas into something unique. So I noticed this website Co-Founder, so I'm gonna go ahead and open this one up. And then, because I thought this one is pretty cool design. And then I'm gonna go back into Mobbin, and I'm gonna grab a second website that I also thought was interesting, which was this one. Right. So I'm gonna go ahead and open both of these websites, and then I'm gonna take screenshots of the key elements that I like for each of them. So I really like this header for Co-Founder. So I'm gonna go ahead and screenshot that. And then I'm just going to paste it directly into my Claude Code chat. I'm gonna do this a few times across the different sections for each one. Let's say, let's take a full look at this. So I really like this section here with the workflows. I'll grab that. And then maybe I'll grab this one also. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing for that second website. So we'll grab this header, which I like. Let's see, what else do they have here? This section is kind of cool. And then maybe let's just grab one more. Yeah, grab this testimonials section. Right, so I have, don't let me import 5. That'll be good for now. So I have all these screenshots. And now what I want to do is also provide it the link. So it's really important to add both the screenshots and the links. The screenshots tell it generally what things should look like, and then the links will allow it to inspect the code from that actual website and figure out how this website is doing certain parts. So grab both of those links. Now all that is in the context, and I'm going to say I want to build a new landing page for Agent. I'm gonna switch to transcribing. We already have a layout of the website copy listed in both the Obsidian Vault and our documents for the actual website itself. Go ahead and use our copy along with the design inspiration I provided from these two websites that creates a new landing page that integrates the design language and design elements and also the animation styles from the two example sites that I provided you. And that's really as simple as it is. Like, this one prompt is going to get me a website that looks really good on first pass. So we'll go ahead and send that. It might ask me some questions about where to find the actual website copy, but this is obviously going to take a while to run. So we'll check back in once that is ready. Okay, now that finally finished up. It took a while to go ahead and build out that complete website, but it's ready now. I just asked it to go ahead and spin up the development server so I can test it out locally and see what it built for us. So we'll click that now. And what we see is looking like it's pretty good. It's obviously built nice animations. It's clearly used the other websites that we provided it as design inspiration. Yeah, it looks really solid so far. Okay, awesome. It looks like I might have to update my current website and use something more similar to this. Actually, I built the website that I'm currently using with the previous Claude model. So every time they release a new model, its ability to do things like this just get even better. Now, obviously it's not 100% perfect. I would probably go back and forth in the chat a little bit and dial in some things to get them exactly the way that I like it. But as you can see, this is a great first step in terms of completely redesigning your website or building a completely fresh website with a great design. Now, that you have the code for this website, the next step would be to go ahead and deploy it and make it live for your website visitors to view. This is also really easy with Claude. I'm not going to do this in the example here because we don't really have time for that. But essentially what I would do is I would just ask it, hey, I want to make this live on my domain. How do I do that? It's probably going to advise you to use something like Vercel to host your website. And it's going to walk you through step by step on how to make that live. And even if you don't have any technical experience, you're going to be able to follow these instructions. It's really not that hard. So now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move into the next section. Real quick before we move on to the next section, if you are a founder, a business owner, or operator, I want to give you an opportunity to fast track the learnings for the rest of this video. By this point, I bet you're getting excited about AI agents and already thinking about how you can implement them into your business to make it more efficient and profitable. If you book a call in the description with me below, what I will do is I will build out a custom implementation plan for your business on the exact AI agents that you need and what you should implement first. What we'll do is we'll map out all of your team's current workflows. We'll discuss the most value opportunities for you to implement AI agents for yourself and across your team. And then I'll build out that implementation plan that it tells you exactly which agents you should build first, how to build them, and then exactly how to implement them within your team to make it more efficient. And then from there, if you decide that you have the implementation plan, but you don't have time to do it yourself or to hire someone else to do it for you, I actually can do those implementations for you. We'll talk about it on the call. I'll see you there, but let's move into the next section of this video. Okay, now let's talk about vibe coding. If you don't know what vibe coding is, it's essentially what we were doing in the last section, where we're talking with AI and we're having it build us something with code, with us just giving it a description of what we want, and the AI is actually writing that code for us to achieve that goal. So typical vibe coding platforms people use are Codex, Lovable, Claude, like we're using today, and there's a bunch of other ones that you can use. The important thing that I want to talk about here is how to graduate from vibe coding to agentic engineering. Now, obviously, if you aren't already a vibe coder, you haven't had much experience with vibe coding. That's the first step. Play around, build some apps for yourself, build some apps for your friends, and then come back to this section when you're ready. The next step is understanding what agentic engineering actually is. The goal of an agentic engineer differs from a vibe coder because the vibe coder is someone who just is chatting with the AI and telling it to do exactly what they want, and without a real understanding of how things are working in the back end. The difference between that and agentic engineering is someone who's engineering is actually understanding what the AI is building and how exactly each of those parts fit together. And your goal as an agentic engineer is to orchestrate agents to build product faster without lowering the quality bar. Andre Karpathy has a really good description of this. I'll plug in that video if I can find it right here.
Yeah, so I would say vibe coding is about raising the floor for everyone in terms of what they can do in software. So the floor rises, everyone can vibe code anything, and that's amazing, incredible. But then I would say agentic engineering is about preserving the quality bar of what existed before in professional software. So you're not allowed to introduce vulnerabilities due to vibe coding. You're still responsible for your software just as before, but can you go faster? And spoiler is you can, but how do you do that properly? And so to me, agentic engineering, when I call it that because I do think it's kind of like an engineering discipline. You have these agents, which are these like spiky entities. They're a bit fallible, a little bit stochastic, but they are extremely powerful. And it's how do you coordinate them to go faster without sacrificing your quality bar? And doing that well and correctly is the realm of agentic engineering.
But essentially, there are a few core pillars that you need to understand in order to graduate from a vibe coder to a vibe engineer. The first one is, like I mentioned, infrastructure understanding. What do I mean by this? You need to understand how all the different parts of an application work together and how your agent is integrating them, and if that makes sense for what you're building. Now, how do you build this understanding? Obviously, that's a tall task. It sounds like kind of hard to approach from the beginning. But the first step I would do, obviously I'm already a developer. I was coding before I could have AI do it for me. But what I would do if I was just starting from scratch is I would start out vibe coding, and I would slowly start asking more questions of the AI. When it mentions something about, the database and the database migrations, you ask it, what does that mean? How are these different parts working together? What tools are you using to do this? And actually read those replies and understand it. The beautiful thing about AI is it's an amazing teacher. So use it to teach you exactly what it's doing step by step. Important note here is I think in order to graduate, you have to switch off of a platform like Lovable and into something like Codex, Cursor, or Claude. Personally, my current workflow is using Claude in the terminal. Previously, I was using Cursor, but Claude gives you a lot more token limits, so I use that now. The next step is building out your workflow. And this is actually the most important part, I think, of agentic engineering is the workflow that you're designing. So this is when you progress from just chatting with the AI and having it build you features to actually using it as a work partner to build stuff for you. And the ideal goal is you want it to be building stuff while you're not even paying attention, while you're not looking at it, and it to help you build code that is, one, scalable, two, is achieving the goal that you initially set it out to be, and then three, reliable and works well for your customers, and four is secure, of course. So we need things to be secure, and we don't want our customers' apps getting hacked. Like I said, if you're just building stuff for yourself or for your friends, this isn't necessarily that important. And I would start at that as the first step. But then as you move along to building an app that you actually want people to pay for and to have real customers interacting with on a day-to-day basis, this stuff becomes a lot more important. So this is my current workflow. I'm not saying this is the holy grail, but this is just what I use personally with a lot of experience building products with AI. And I'm constantly evolving this as technologies change, but this is my current setup. So the first thing I do when I'm building a new feature is I scope that feature. So I think about what is the feature, and I get a general idea of, if I wasn't using AI, how I would write the code myself. You don't necessarily need to understand this, but it is helpful to understand the basics of like how code interacts and be able to generally read code to some extent. And then most importantly, what the user experience will be. So kind of our jobs as engineers and developers has progressed into more of what product managers were doing before. So now I'm doing more of that stuff myself. The second is plan. So the white bubbles here are the person, the blue bubbles are AI. So the plan step is having the AI build a plan without writing any code of the exact steps it's going to take to implement and exactly what step it's going to take to implement and exactly what features it's going to build and add. Then your next step as the engineer is to review this plan and ask yourself a few questions. Does the plan correctly capture my intention? So like, is the plan representative of what my initial vision was for what this feature will be? And then the second thing is, will this code be written in a way that will allow future features to be built on top of it? Obviously, in order to understand this, you need to have some level of understanding of the different infrastructure, a future plan of what features are going to be built, and understand how it's actually going to implement the different parts of your plan. Then we're going to fire that off. Once we are happy with our plan, I usually go back and forth a few times with the agent to finalize the plan. we fire that off into a build step. This is when you actually tell the agent, okay, we have a plan. I like that plan. Go ahead and build everything. After that, we actually have that process directly into another agent step. And this is an agent that's specifically designed to review the code that was written against the plan and against another set of parameters that you have set up as a developer to decide, is that code good? Is that code secure? And does it actually implement what I want it to implement? Then the final step is the review of the review and then testing and qualitative analysis. You're trying to answer the questions, is this secure? Does this work actually? And will the user experience be good? And you have to do all these steps before actually deploying the new feature into production. So previously, obviously, as an engineer, you have to do all of these steps. And now you have a lot more time to build features and focus more on the actual user experience and all the things that make an application great. I want to show you quickly my current workflow. I still do both. There's some instances where you want to be vibe coding, and there's some instances where you want to be agentic engineering. For my products that are customer facing, all of those, I'm using this workflow on pretty much every feature that goes into production. But for some of my personal projects that are just designed to make myself more efficient, then those I am vibe coding. So let me pull up this application that I built. I call this Agent Max, and it basically does all of those steps that I just mentioned of my entire workflow and automates the entire thing for me. So whenever I have a new idea for a feature that I want to add to Agent, I head over into this chat and I start by typing in the short description of what I want that feature to be. And this agent is something that I've set up that I built for myself. And it's designed to basically help me push things through this entire workflow. So I read the short description, then it asks me some questions so I can initially clarify what I want it to be, and then it goes ahead and pushes that off to a different agent that actually plans out that feature for me. So this dashboard shows all of my features that are currently in production in the pipeline and also the done features. Right now I have a bunch of stuff that I'm working on simultaneously, which is one of the beautiful things about this. Previously, I would only really build one feature at a time, but now it looks like I'm building 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 plus features all in parallel right now. So the next step is that, we'll have this agent fire off the plan agent. An agent will write the plan for us, and then I'll go ahead and review that plan. Let me jump into my GitHub, because that's kind of the synchronizing place where I am managing all of this. So actually, let's go here. And sorry if I'm losing you. If you are not interested in agentic engineering and just want to do the basic AI stuff, feel free to skip ahead to the next section, because I know we're getting a bit technical here. Okay, let's pull up one of these. This is a good one. Right, so we see here, the first step that the agent took was to write a plan for the full scope of this feature, right? The agent wrote all of this based on my initial description. Then I went in and I read this plan. I decided if different parts of it looked good, if it was designed in a way that I wanted, if it was going to work in a way that was going to be good for end users. I chatted back and forth with this inside of the Claude chat. Once I was happy with the plan, I said, okay, go ahead and build this out for me. We can see that here. If I head back and I go to this one. Right, so we fire off the first plan. I read this, and then I made some slight changes, and then I went ahead and approved the build once I was happy with that it was going to do what I wanted. Then the next step is actually to build it out. Once it builds it, it posts another comment saying, all right, this is ready for review. That immediately gets picked up by the review agent, which is set up with a prompt that I've listed out all the different things that I want it to check that happened in that code. A few of the core ones is obviously a security audit. I want it to check and see if this code is going to be secure. Are we going to somehow expose user data? Are we going to expose any new vulnerabilities? And then I also have it lay out all the different tasks that I need to do before it can go live into production, and also the things that I need to test manually, right? All that data gets pulled back into this app that I vibe coded. I go through these one by one, check everything off. And then once I'm happy with that, then it can finally go into production. So that's kind of the final step there. Okay, there are a few other core pillars that you need to understand to make the transition from vibe coding to agentic engineering. One of those is telemetry. Telemetry is essentially the way that your application sends data to another service in a way that it can be viewed and inspected so that you can check that the systems are secure for one, and for two, that they are running as expected. So let me give you an example of this. So right now, every time there's any sort of error in the systems that are running agent, our system picks that up immediately. One, notifies me of the error that's happening, and then two, sends that off to a different agent that is going to inspect what's causing that error and give me the next steps so I can resolve that for customers as soon as possible. The next pillar is obviously security. This is super important and it's really easy to mess up. So it's one that you want to be really careful about. There's a few different things that you can do to improve the security of your applications. And the first one is really just being aware of it. I feel like this is something that a lot of people who are vibe coding aren't really even considering. So the first step I would take here is just making sure you're asking the agents to review your code for security. Like just asking it like, okay, you built this feature. Is this actually secure? Is this going to somehow leak our users' data to other people? Are our API keys accessible to anyone? Just asking it those questions, asking if things are secure is like definitely the first step to take here. And the third one is automation. This is something I've mentioned a few times across the step, but you'll notice that my workflow is almost fully automated from the feature scope section to the actual product going into production. I'm automating as much of that as possible. My goal is to essentially have as many agents running and working for me at a time that are working for me while I sleep, essentially. So my goal is to automate agents in any way possible. Let me give you another example of that. I have one agent that its job is every 3 days, it checks in with all the chats that are happening in my app between the user and our agent. What it's checking for is any errors that came up in that chat, anytime that the user is not getting the output that they're expecting, and then any issues with that app or that chat using too many tokens, so we can optimize all those things. That agent looks for all those cases, and then every 3 days, it will send me a report, and if necessary, write a first pass of code to resolve any of those issues. So that's just one example of the type of things that I'm automating. There are a ton of different things like this that I'm doing throughout the code base, but yeah, that's just one example. All right, I could probably record a full video on agentic engineering. So if you guys want that, leave a comment below and I will do that. And I'll give you a full breakdown of all my workflows and all my automations. But I don't think this is the right place for that. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next section. Okay, let's talk about lead generation in sales. In this section, I'm going to be breaking down step by step how you can build 3 different agents that are going to help you with different lead generation and sales processes. Hopefully these are going to be generalized examples so you can use them as inspiration to build systems that are more applicable to your business. But the first one that we're going to be building is this workflow that we mentioned before. We're going to set up an agent to find target accounts, verify their contact information, and then sequence them into a cold outreach campaign. The second agent that we're going to build is going to check Reddit daily for people who are experiencing the exact problem that our product solves, and then give us pre-written posts that we can comment on those Reddit threads to generate leads for our product that way. And then the third agent is going to be a generalized sales assistant agent that is going to help us with all these 3 tasks that we mentioned here before, which is responding quickly to leads, logging all activity to the CRM, and generating reports. So let's dive into the first one, which is our lead identification and sequencing agent. All 3 of these we're going to build with my platform agent. This is software that I built that is specifically designed for building these sales and lead generation go-to-market agents. Just a quick aside, I am currently doing free build-outs. So what I'll do is I'll work with you and your team, figure out where all the best spots in your workflow are for us to implement agents, do those agent build-outs completely for you for free. The only thing you pay for is our software. So there's a link in the description. If you want that, feel free to check that out or just send me an email. Cool. Now jumping in, we'll go into my workspace here. And this is set up so that it's super easy to build these agents just by describing exactly what you want. So I'm going to use Whisperflow for this again. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click record and describe the agent. We want an agent that first searches the internet for target accounts in our ICP and then builds a list of those people and companies. Then we want to verify the contact information. We want to find their email and LinkedIn accounts, and then also verify any emails that we have found. And then finally, we want to sequence those emails and LinkedIn accounts into a Instantly AI sequence and a Hey Reach sequence for the LinkedIn accounts. Right, I'm going to go ahead and send that message in. And the beautiful thing about this is when you first sign up, the system accesses your website and pre-fills it with knowledge about who you are and what your company does. So notice here, I didn't say anything about what agent is and who our ICP is, but it already knows that information because I signed up and I put it in my website and it already pre-researched that information about me. Okay, so just off that initial message, it's already come up with a full plan for us. So first it's going to research the web to find target accounts. Then it's going to build a list with those people. And then it is going to enrich them with LinkedIn. And finally, it's going to find and verify their emails and then go ahead and sequence them into the platforms that we specified. So it's already identified that since we mentioned these two platforms, it's just asking us to go ahead and connect those integrations. I'll go ahead and connect. I've already copied my Instantly key off screen. So I'll paste that in here and then I'll do the same for Hey Reach. Okay, now we have both of those connected to the platform. So we should be ready for the next step. All right, now that it has those connected, it has proposed a full plan for us. We don't really need to read through this on screen, but yeah, it's basically just doing those steps that I mentioned before, one by one. And then it is going to sequence into Instantly and Hey Reach. So it's asking us for the campaign ideas. It actually should be able to access those campaigns for us. So I'm gonna say, can you check for the campaigns in my accounts? So I already have some campaigns running. I'm actually not going to turn this agent on because I already have separate agents set up already managing those campaigns, but we'll do this as a demo. All right, it's gone ahead and pulled in those campaign data for us from both of the platforms, and we'll just tell it which ones to use. This doesn't really matter because I'm not actually going to enable this for now, but we'll tell it to use pre-built agents 2 for Instantly and pre-built agents 3 for Hey Reach. Okay, now that we give it all that information, it went ahead and built out that plan that it had already recommended. And all we need to do is go ahead and click deploy here, and that will start running on a schedule and finding leads, checking their emails, and then sequencing them into those campaigns. And that was super quick to set up. I cut out some of the times where it was thinking, but that took me less than 5 minutes total. Okay, now one last thing here. If we wanted to run this on a schedule, so say we wanted to find 50 new leads every day, we can ask it to do just that. So I'll go ahead and deploy this agent, and then we'll set up the schedule so that it runs daily, multiple times, and just keeps our outbound pipeline completely full without us having to do anything manually. So we just have to say, I want this to run automatically on a schedule. We want to get about 50 new leads to 100 new leads per day. Go ahead and set up whatever schedule you think is best for that. Okay, and just like that, that schedule is up and ready to go. And it looks like we would get roughly 350 to 700 new verified leads adding to each of those campaigns every week, which is great. Or you could set that up to add more or less depending on what your leads are. If you wanted to test this, what you can do here is go ahead and click on this agent here, and you can start a new chat, and you can ask it to run the, I would just say, run the pipeline. Right, this is already what it's going to do manually on the schedule. Every day on that schedule, it's just going to tell the system, run that pipeline. I don't want to do it here because my campaigns are set up in a certain way that I'll show you later, but we don't want to sequence these leads in right now. So I'm actually going to go ahead and disable that pipeline real quick. Okay, now we can move on to building that Reddit agent that I mentioned earlier. This one will be probably even more simple than this one that we just built. So Agent already has built-in connections to a bunch of different platforms. So you can get data from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Reddit, TikTok, really anything that you're gonna need for building this type of stuff. So we'll start off a new one. I want to build an agent that helps me find posts to promote Agent on in Reddit. Recommend some subreddits that I should post on, and also the types of posts that we should look for. Then I'm going to want you to check those subreddits and search keywords once a day and alert me in Slack whenever you find a new opportunity. Okay, that just finished up, it looks like we have a good plan here. It knows what tools it needs. It's decided on some subreddits that it wants to search and some keywords to flag. Generally, if I was actually setting this up live, I would go a little bit more in depth and think a bit more about exactly what the keywords were and maybe add a list of more subreddits. But for demo purposes, I think this is good enough. So we need to connect Slack, and then it's asking if we're happy with the list and keywords, which for now, yes, we are. Yeah, I'll go ahead and connect Slack now. No, the keywords and a list look good to me. Cool, so it's got me this card. I'll just go ahead and connect that to my Slack channel real quick. All right, that's connected and we're good to go. It should move on to the next step automatically. All right, here it's realized that it needs a place to store all the Reddit alerts. So it's going to go ahead and set that up for me and also build out that agent at the same time. Looks like it's also created a channel for me in Slack. All right, that is completely built out and ready. It's going to search Reddit, scan each pour, rate it 1 through 10 for fit, then save all the ones that it's already seen so it doesn't send me the same alerts multiple times, then send a Slack alert, and it's going to do that every day at 9 a.m. without me having to do anything manually. So go ahead and deploy that one also. And then one thing that I noticed that it might not have done is add me to the Reddit opportunities channel. So I'm just going to make sure that it does that. All right, I am in that channel now, and we'll go ahead and test it because now that it's deployed. And one of the really nice things about this system is that it helps you not only build the agents, but also helps you make sure that they're working correctly. So what it's going to do right now is it's going to start a session of that agent. So the agent is going to start scanning Reddit for Slack, looking for good posts and alerting me. If anything goes wrong within that session, the agent that we used to build it will immediately be notified of that, and it will propose a fix to make sure things work better in the future. Okay, perfect. It looks like it just finished that up for us. So it's identified a bunch of different posts, scored them on which ones are the best fit, and then went ahead, or it says it's sent them to the Slack channel, so we can check that now. And yeah, it looks like we have a few new posts here. And this person is asking for no-code AI automations to automate sales pipeline hygiene, which is like the perfect use case for agents. So yeah, this is working great. I should probably go leave a comment on this post right now when I'm done finishing this video. Awesome, so everything worked well. Now that agent will just continue to run every day. Generally what I'll do is I'll continue to optimize these agents. So maybe the next step would be, additionally to having it send me the post, also writing a comment in my voice that subtly tries to promote agent as the solution to whatever problem that person is facing. Now let's go ahead and move on to building out the third agent example. So this one is going to be a AI Slack assistant for sales. So I actually already have this particular agent running in my workspace, but we'll give you a new example so I can show you exactly how it works. We're going to want this agent to do a few different things. One of those things is to monitor our CRM for places where we either need to reach out and follow up with people, reach out to new leads that came in as signups to our platform that we haven't contacted yet. It also gets alerts for all of our new replies on HeyReach and Instantly and lets me know about those and also where that person came from. And then finally, it listens to all of our new alerts from Cal for new meetings booked. I wish I could show you this agent in my Slack, but unfortunately that would just leak all of my customer data, so I won't be able to show it to you. The one really cool thing that you can do with this is whenever it sends you a notification, if you have any questions, you can ask that agent directly in Slack to answer your questions, to work with you, to update your CRM. And since it's connected to all those tools, it can do all those actions for you. So let me give you a quick example of that. If I sent an email to one of my prospects and then booked a call with them, first of all, the agent would already know that it would get that alert for the call booked, and it would update them automatically in my CRM. But let's say, for example, I'm looking through leads and there's someone that I want to know if we've reached out to yet. I would just send that agent a message. I would say, hey, have we reached out to this person? Type in their name, and it's going to search across our database, our Instantly campaigns, all of our data, and figure out if we've already reached out to them. And then it could even just sequence them in for me automatically. So that's kind of the power of this. And that's all through chat directly inside of your Slack where our agents can reply. So let's go ahead and build this out. I'm going to transcribe again here. I want to build a new sales assistant agent. It should be connected to our database, our Attio account, all of our campaigns. I want it to receive notifications for new replies. I want it to alert me in Slack for key events. And I also wanted to check daily for any opportunities in my CRM that I need to either follow up with or reach out to new opportunities that have been added since the previous day. Okay, it looks like I got that and set most of it up already. One problem is the whisper flow transcribe Attio as AddCO. So I'll just go ahead and say that to let it know what Attio is, because it does know what Attio is. And I think we'll need to connect that here before I can move on. But that should clarify and it'll be able to continue to the next steps. Okay, we'll go ahead and just click the connect button and paste in our API key that we got from the Attio dashboard. Okay, perfect. So now I just need to know the Slack channel and the time zone. So let's go ahead and say, yes, that channel works. Add me. All right, so make sure to add me to that channel, and then 8 a.m. EST is perfect. Okay, perfect. So now it's connected to all of these tools. It has our workspace database, Attio, both of our HeyReach details, and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and approve this, and then we'll test it out in our Slack channel. Okay, great. It looks like it has finished configuring that. All we need to do is go ahead and click the deploy button, and then that agent will be immediately live directly in our Slack channel. So we didn't even need to touch this app anymore. If we didn't want to, we could just chat with the agent directly in Slack, which is awesome. One thing it's telling us to do is that in order to get replies from Instantly or HeyReach, all we need to do is configure a webhook inside Instantly. So we just copy this, paste it into the Instantly webhook configuration, which I'm not going to do right now because I'm going to turn off this agent after finishing this demo. But yeah, you get the general idea there. So we'll head over. Okay, now that it's deployed, we can go ahead and head into Slack and confirm that channel is there and check if the agent will respond to us in that channel. So we'll go into the sales assistant channel, which it just created for us. I'm going to go ahead and just test to see if it's working. I'll say, hey, you there? And we'll see that it starts typing in this thread. And yeah, it just says, hey, I'm ready to help. Let me know what I can help you with, and gives us an alert. So let's go ahead and test it out and see if the connections are working. We'll give it 2 quick tasks here, and I need to be specific about this so I don't leak any of my real customer data. Give me a quick status report on the sales pipeline. Don't return any identifying customer data names, companies, or any of that. Just give me a basic overview. I'm recording a video, so don't want to leak any data. Also, same thing for my current Instantly campaigns. Are there any active? How many messages have been sent? That's all I need to know. Thanks. Okay, all right, perfect. It just replied to us, and here is our overview. Looks like there's a slight problem with the Attio configuration, so we'll go ahead and fix that in a second, but the Instantly one is working properly. It would be really easy for me to just delete this message, fix it, and then, resume, show it like it worked perfectly the first time. But that's the reality is, like, these things don't always work the first time. A lot of times you have to go back and forth, but it is always super easy to fix the issues, right? So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this, right? And I'm going to just paste it. I'm going to say there's a problem with Attio. I'm going to paste that, and I'm going to paste our initial message also. I sent this message. Oops, that didn't copy correctly. Let me try that again. Right, and what I'm doing here is I'm just giving it enough context so it's going to be able to fix that issue for us. All right, cool. So it looked at our message and it seems to have wired up the tools that it needs the agent to have to be able to access that extra information that we want. So go ahead and approve that. Also, what I'm going to do really quick is I'm just going to tell it to give the agent access to as many tools as possible so we don't run into the same issue later if we try to, access new data. So I'm going to say, create a full list of tools we should add so we don't hit more data access issues, right? So what this is going to do is it's going to check generally across all the tools that are available within our platform, figure out which one of those would make sense for this agent to have access to, and then give it access to just those tools. An important mental model for how these sub-agents work within Agent is by default, the system tries to give them the minimum number of tools that they need to complete their specific job. So this works really well for the agents like the ones that we were setting up before, where we only wanted to do one specific thing that's like looking at Reddit. So it only needs a few tools, and adding more tools in that instance might just confuse the agent and cause it to make mistakes. But for a more generalized agent that we want to actually have chats with, it's better to give it more tools so it has more things at its disposal to do what we actually want it to do. So it's gone through, it's listed a bunch of different additional tools that will be helpful, and it's gone ahead and added all of those to the agent in this next proposal. Cool. Now, so we've approved that, and now the agent should instantly have access to that additional data. So I'm going to tell it to try again. Actually, I think I might have to do this in a new session, right? Because this is scoped to the old version. So let's go ahead and copy our initial message from last time directly into the main chat, and we will see if it works now. One thing to note here is that the agent's knowledge is scoped to the individual thread. And right, this is to save you money on token usage. So each thread, it will know what was talked about in the previous conversation, but outside of the thread, it's a new conversation, and the agent doesn't have necessarily any knowledge of your previous conversations. One other thing that you can do is add memory to these agents. So they'll progressively update their memory and their knowledge over time, and they'll learn from working with you and save information. So while this is working, we'll go ahead and add that memory feature also, because I think that would be helpful to have in this agent. You can say add memory to the agent. Super simple. Cool. Now we have long-term memory available. And as you can see, so it's going to remember your preferences, patterns, and all that good stuff. So it's going to get smarter over time the more that you talk to it. And like I said, this is session-based. So each of these individual chats is a unique session with that agent. As you update it, only the new sessions will receive those updates over time. So that's just something to be aware of. All right, looks like it's replied to us. And yeah, so it has all of our deal data synced. So yeah, that's working correctly now, which is perfect. One more thing we can go ahead and add to this agent that might make it even more helpful is a schedule, so it can run autonomously without us having to chat with it directly. One thing that might be helpful for this type of agent is just giving us maybe a pipeline overview and recommending follow-ups. So we'll go ahead and add that now. I want to add a schedule so that the agent tells me which leads need to be followed up with every morning, and also just give me a general overview of our current pipeline across Attio and Instantly. Whisperflow really can't pick up Attio for some reason, but that's all right. It should be able to figure it out. Nope, it is. Okay, no, it knows that that's Instantly. Let's say, yep, 8 a.m. I mean Instantly. Oh, perfect. It looks like we already had added that schedule earlier, and I had just forgotten that we'd done that already, but perfect. It just updated it to add the new information, and it's going to send that to us tomorrow at 8 a.m. with all those details. Now, hopefully this gives you a really good idea of the different type of agent workflows that you can build directly within Agent. Really quick, I'll just run through a few of the other agents that I'm running in my personal workspace. There are a lot of them, so I'll keep that brief. But again, I want to mention that I'm currently doing agent build outs for you, for your company, completely for free. So if that's something that's interested to you, click the link below and we can chat about that. So, okay, here we are in my agent workspace. This is the workspace where I'm running the agents that are automating the entire go-to-market workflow for my company. As you can see, there are a ton of different agents here, so I'll just give you a brief overview of all of them. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the last section of the video will cover the exact system that I'm using to generate leads that are paying me thousands of dollars a month completely on Autopilot. I'll give you a brief preview of that here first, but stick around to the end of the video because I'll break down that entire system end to end. So that system is my LinkedIn engagement scraper and outreach system. Pretty much the overview of how that works is on a daily basis, we're checking LinkedIn for new posts that my ICP is likely to be engaging with. we are scraping all of those people who are interacting with those posts. Then we are enriching them and outreaching to all of them. Like I said, I'll give you a full breakdown on that later, but that is the basics. I'm also managing all of my cold outreach through this. So I am uploading lists here, having the system enrich those leads, write personalized messages to them, sequence them into my Instantly account. As I mentioned before, I have my sales support agent, that BDR agent. I'm automating a bunch of different customer support tasks directly in here. We'll talk more about customer support in the next section. Then I have a bunch of different monitors for positive replies, syncing my AdTO account with my Instantly account. All my different leads automatically get synced directly into my AdTO without me having to deal with any of that manually, which is awesome. Then we have a few more that are doing different stuff. I don't think that's worth going into right now. I'll give you a quick view of the entire stack. So this is the agent mission control view. This page really gives you an idea of what all your different agents are doing when they're running, how much token cost they're using, what data calls they're using, all that good stuff. Quick overview of all of my agents. They're all right here. Go ahead and screenshot that and try to steal that from if you want. I welcome you to do so. Won't go too deep into that here. Another tool we have is this dashboard builder. This lets you use natural language to build custom dashboards from the data that's already getting saved by all of your agents. So that's another feature that we have that's super cool. All right, let's jump into the next section. Now I want to quickly talk about AI customer support, and I realize this might not be relevant for everyone, so feel free to skip to the next section if this section isn't for you. But for me, as a solo founder, AI agent customer support has been one of the biggest unlocks in allowing me to scale my business without having to bring on additional team members. In my last company, nearly half of our team was just non-technical customer support. And now, as I mentioned, I'm able to operate all of our customer support completely on my own. And my agents actually fully handle most of my customers' support queries without me even having to send any messages back and forth with those customers. So I want to talk a little bit how to set this up. Like a lot of our other agents, there's kind of 4 core components that go into building a great customer support agent. Obviously, we have our context at the top level. This is general guidance as far as how you want the agent to interact in certain situations. We wanted to have, obviously, access to our support documentation. It's really important that you have really good support docs that can help the agent answer any question that a human might have when asking that agent a question. And then obviously, if we have the previous human support document or support conversations from before we implemented AI agent customer support, it's really good to provide those as well, so the agent gets a really good idea of how it should respond to the customer in certain circumstances. Then another core part is our toolkit. We want to have the agent able to access as much information about our customers or whoever's talking to it as possible. So we want to be able to do things like customer lookups, figure out who that person is, what their company does, all that good stuff, and then also have it be able to access their subscriptions if you have a SaaS application or whatever, how much they're paying you, depending what type of business you run. And then also it's great if you can have it access their recent activity. All of my agents can actually look up users directly in our database and see how exactly they're interacting with our apps and potentially identify any problems or bugs that they might be facing to pass on to either a coding agent that can fix that bug or myself if I need to look at that personally. And that brings us into our next section, which is the escalation path. So these are also tools, but I broke them out into their own section because these are really important here. These are what allow the customer support agent to alert you or some other system when it can't solve that problem on its own. So for example, in my system, a lot of times people are just reporting bugs that they're experiencing. Every time that happens, the customer support agent will report that bug, and that bug will get immediately passed to a coding agent that has all the context. So that agent can go ahead and start fixing the bug completely without my intervention, and then just let me know, hey, this bug occurred. I've already written a fix for it. You can review that and then push it into production and let that person know that it's fixed. So that's really powerful, obviously. Obviously, we also want a escalation path for any circumstance that the support agent cannot solve the issue without additional human support. And then we might want to do things like a refund review here. So maybe you don't want your support agent to be able to process refunds without you reviewing it first. So we'd have an escalation path. Every time someone asks for a refund, the support agent would first kind of assess whether or not it makes sense to offer a refund. If it thinks it does, it would pass that along to you for you to review and then process that refund on your own. Then another core element, and I think this might actually be the most valuable thing that you can add on, is activity reports. So there is a lot of valuable data sitting within your customer support conversations, and you need a way to export the valuable aspects of this data so you can review it and use it to improve your product or service. So one thing that I have running is an agent that reviews all of my customer activity in the support channel for the past week, and then it pulls out all the key elements that are either recurring or may be room for improving our product. And then it sends that to me so I can go ahead and review that and improve our product so we get fewer customer support conversations in the first place. So this is really powerful here. This is basically what allows your software to essentially improve itself. So you could do something like have an agent review the customer activity reports, then pass that information directly into a coding agent to fix your product and improve your product over time without you really even being in the loop too much. All you would have to do is just review those changes, review the changes to your code, and decide if that makes sense based on what the agent came up with. So I've actually built out all of my customer support systems internally from scratch just because it's so easy now for me to write code with tools like Claude Code and Cursor. But I would recommend that if you're not technical, that you get started with a platform that allows you to do a lot of these things pre-built out of the box. I have two recommendations here. One is Chatbase. This is awesome. Their founder is great. It does pretty much all the things that I just mentioned out of the box with a software subscription. So I would recommend checking them out. And then also, longtime player in the game, Intercom. They're also great. Make sure you check out their Fin AI feature. I think they do charge you per resolution, which I'm not a huge fan of, but feel free to check that one up as well. Then I just want to give you a quick overview of how the customer support works within my application, the custom system that I built. So here we have this help button on the bottom left that opens a pretty standard chat window where people can start a new support chat, view their previous chats. And then I noticed a lot of my requests were either people reporting a bug or feature requests. So I built out two templates for the agent to handle these specific scenarios. Both of them end up with a feature request or bug report that gets sent to a coding agent to either build that feature out without my intervention or to go ahead and fix that bug without me doing anything. And then I either just review those new features that the agent has built for me or review those bugs before I'm pushing those in production and letting the customer know. So I think that's super cool, something that you guys should definitely think about building. I think that just about wraps up the customer support section, and let's go on and move ahead to the next section. At the beginning of this video, I told you I was going to be sharing the exact system that I'm using to generate leads that are paying me thousands of dollars a month completely on Autopilot. And to be honest, I don't even know if I should be sharing this system because it is working so well. And I kind of want to just keep it for myself. But to be honest, I don't know how many people are going to watch this video, and I'm a nice guy. So I figured for the people who stayed to the end, I will show you the exact system. To give you some reference, this is inside of my HeyReach account. HeyReach is a platform for automating LinkedIn outreach. These are my results for this campaign for the last 7 days. As you can see here, I'm getting a 55.3% reply rate. Anyone who's done cold outreach before knows that's absolutely insane. It's really hard to get reply rates this high. So I'm going to show you exactly how I am doing that. So instead of being one agent, this is a workflow that 3 agents work together to produce this result for me. So I'm gonna go through step by step and show you each one. 2 of these agents are built directly in my platform agent. Feel free to check this platform out. It is the perfect platform for building workflows like this for go-to-market and fully automating your company's operations. So a link to that is going to be in the description. I also have built a blueprint for this exact agent on our blueprints page. So what you'll do is you head to this page, you check out the blueprint that you want, click it here, and then if you click build with agent, it's going to import this directly into your agent account, and it's going to allow you to build out this agent with just by answering a few questions about your specific company and your specific use case. So that link is in the description below. Also, please do check that out. I think it'll be really helpful for you guys. So how exactly does this system work? So first of all, we have this LinkedIn Engager agent. Essentially what this agent's job is to find people on LinkedIn who are good candidates for me to reach out to. How it does this is it first starts by searching for posts on LinkedIn that my ICP are likely to be engaging with. These are people who are either commenting on these posts or liking and interacting with the post generally. Then it goes ahead and once it finds that post, it scrapes all those LinkedIn accounts that have interacted with it, and it starts to qualify them by ICP fit. So it knows what agent is, it knows who our ideal customer is. It goes ahead and scores each of those people by that fit, And then for the people that score high enough, it goes ahead and sends those along to the next agent. And then for the ones that are too low, it just throws those out so we don't contact them ever in the first place. Like I said, this part is completely automated. The next agent is our agent generation agent. I know we're getting pretty meta here. My company's called Agent. It's agent everywhere. I think I might actually rename the company. Stay tuned for that. But what this one does is it uses the details about that person provided to it by the first agent to plan and build a custom agent for that person. So it's going to go ahead and look at that person's website. It's going to determine, based on what this type of company is, what is a agent that we could build for them that would really help their operations, their outreach, whatever that might be. And it's going to pre-build that for them and then send a description along with a link for that person to claim the agent to our cold outreach agent. This agent is going to take that data, it's going to use it to write a personalized cold outreach message. It's going to be something along the lines of, hey, I built you an agent for company name. It does XYZ thing based on the description that the previous agent generated. Once it's written all those emails, it's going to go ahead and sequence them into my email and cold outreach or cold LinkedIn outreach sequencer. So that's Instantly.ai and HeyReach. So those leads automatically go from being just random people that we found on LinkedIn to actually have sent them both emails and LinkedIn outreach messages. Then it's going to also automatically manage those email inboxes. This is the most powerful part. Anyone who's done cold outreach knows it's really important to reply quickly to leads that are replying to you. And it's also important just for your sanity, so you don't have to be managing these inboxes, especially if you're doing high volume. It's really hard to stay on top of sending out all those replies. So this agent actually handles replying to all the interested inbound leads that reply to my initial messages, and it sends them that link that the previous agent generated. Like I said, this is working incredibly well. You should definitely implement this. We do have blueprints, like I mentioned before, for helping you implement the cold outreach agent and the LinkedIn script agent. Like I said, this middle step is something custom that I built. But the way you should think about this is how can you use AI to generate a personalized, valuable asset that you can offer each of your leads wherever you're cold outreaching to them on. And this is going to increase reply rates massively because people don't feel like you're trying to super hard sell them. You're just trying to provide them something valuable. And then two, if you're personalizing each of these assets, that is also going to really maximize your reply rates. So this is something that you could do within the agent platform as well to generate whatever that asset might be. This could be something like some sort of report, some sort of personalized plan, whatever that might be. You can generate that with agent, you can generate with that your own software, however that fits into the workflow. I definitely recommend you guys try this outreach strategy. And if you do try it, I recommend that you build it within our agent platform, but feel free to build it with any of the tools that I've showed you here today. If you are a founder, business owner, or operator, and you've made it to this point in the video, hopefully now you have a bunch of ideas for all the agents that you could implement in your business to make it more efficient and profitable. But you might be thinking, now I have all these ideas, how do I implement them? Which agent should I build first? And how exactly do I build each of the agents that I need for my business? And if that's what you're thinking, I have the perfect option for you. If you book a discovery call with me in the link down below in this description, I will build out an implementation for you and your team for exactly what agents you should build, in what order, and how exactly to implement them in your business. The first thing we'll do is we'll talk about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, what each of your team members are doing on a day-to-day basis, figure out which of those workflows could be optimized with AI agents, and then discuss which of those agents would be most valuable to implement and in what order they should be implemented. By the end of the call, you'll have a full implementation plan for exactly what agents to build and the exact order to build those agents, and then how exactly to implement each of those agents directly into your business. Then from there, if you're thinking, okay, now I have this plan and I don't know if I have time to build this out myself, and it'd be great to have an expert build these agents out for me, I can do exactly that. Currently I have a done for you offer. Well, I will take that plan and I will implement across your business, whether that's just for you or whether that's for everyone in your team. I will build and implement the agents that your company needs to actually become AI first. So if that sounds interesting, go ahead and book a call in the link in the description of this video. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. If you made it to this point, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and finally get some agents implemented into your workflow.